You're sitting in your room, trying to focus, but your mind keeps drifting back to that feeling, the one you can't escape. It's pain. Not the kind that's obvious, like a broken arm, but a deeper, emotional kind. It's the pain that comes from within, from things unresolved, from things you've buried. You've felt it before many times. It's a heavy weight, but this time, it feels even worse. It's overwhelming, and it won't go away. You've tried everything to get rid of it. Distractions, work, hobbies, anything that can take your mind off it. But no matter what you do, it always comes back. The pain is like a shadow you can't outrun. You wonder, why does it hurt so much? What is it trying to teach me? You're told to avoid pain, to numb it with distractions, to stay positive, and move on. But deep inside, a question lingers. What if this pain is actually trying to help me? What if it's not something to avoid, but something to learn from? What if facing this pain head-on is the key to changing your life? It's strange, right? Pain is something we try to escape, something we avoid at all costs. But what if the very thing we fear the most is the path to our growth? What if embracing the discomfort, instead of running from it, opens the door to a better, stronger version of ourselves? You've always been told to chase happiness, to avoid discomfort, and to suppress what hurts. But the more you think about it, the more you start to question, what if the real power comes from learning how to use pain, not avoid it? What if this pain, the thing you tried to hide from, is the very force that can drive you forward? What if it's the key to unlocking your true potential? Pain is part of the human experience. We've all faced it. Loss, failure, heartbreak. It's in these moments of pain that we often grow the most. But here's the big question. How do you turn your pain into a source of personal growth? Pain, both physical and emotional, is a universal experience. It is an inescapable part of the human condition, something every person encounters, and yet so many of us spend our lives avoiding it. Our natural instinct is to push pain away, to numb it, to run from it. But why is this so? Why are we so afraid of pain, and why do we resist it so fiercely? Why does it seem as though society, culture, and even our own minds push us to see pain as an enemy rather than a teacher? The root of this problem lies in a complex web of psychological conditioning, philosophical misunderstandings, and societal forces that all contribute to our fear of pain and our reluctance to face it directly. From a psychological perspective, pain is often perceived as a threat to our sense of safety, security, and control. Our minds are wired to avoid discomfort because discomfort signals danger, or so it seems. This instinct to avoid pain is rooted in basic survival mechanisms. The body tells us when something is wrong, and our minds react by trying to protect us from harm. For most people, this leads to the instinctual response of numbing or distracting themselves from painful emotions or situations. This is where the problem begins. In trying to avoid the discomfort that pain brings, we often ignore what pain is trying to tell us. Pain is a messenger, a signal from within that something is out of alignment, whether it be emotional, psychological, or even spiritual. But when we resist it, when we push it away, we stop listening to its message. We shut down parts of ourselves in the process, creating a disconnect between our true selves and the external pressures we face. This avoidance becomes a habit, and soon enough, pain is no longer viewed as something to understand but as something to suppress. The deeper the suppression, the more powerful the pain becomes. What we resist persists. But why do we feel so compelled to resist? Philosophically, the problem of avoiding pain has deep roots in Western thought. From ancient Greece to modern-day psychology, much of Western philosophy has revolved around the idea of minimizing suffering. The ancient Greeks, such as the Epicureans, preached the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain as the ultimate goal of life. Happiness was equated with the absence of pain, a state of equilibrium where suffering could be kept at bay. However, thinkers like Friedrich Nietzsche challenged this ideal, warning against the denial of suffering. Nietzsche saw pain not as something to avoid, but as a necessary and transformative force. He famously said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." For Nietzsche, pain was not something that weakened or diminished the human spirit. Rather, it was through struggling with pain, facing it head-on, that individuals could discover meaning and strength. He called this the will to power, the inner drive to overcome obstacles and find deeper purpose through adversity. Arthur Schopenhauer, another philosopher whose work deeply influenced Nietzsche, argued that suffering was the fundamental condition of human existence. He believed that the will to live is the root of all suffering, driving us to constantly desire and strive for unattainable goals. Schopenhauer didn't see this as something to overcome, but as a central part of the human condition, something to accept and even embrace. To him, it was not pain that was the problem but our constant attempt to escape it. The act of trying to flee from pain only intensifies it and leads us into a cycle of dissatisfaction. But if we take Nietzsche's and Schopenhauer's perspectives seriously, we must rethink the way we view pain. Instead of seeing it as something to be avoided, we can begin to view it as an opportunity, a catalyst for personal growth. This view aligns with the ideas of CarlJung, who argued that the shadow, the parts of ourselves we try to hide or deny, holds the key to true self-realization. Jung believed that the unconscious mind harbors the aspects of ourselves that we fear and avoid, and that only by integrating the shadow, by facing our fears and wounds, can we achieve wholeness. Jung's concept of the individuation process is an essential part of understanding how pain can lead to personal growth. Individuation is the process of becoming whole by reconciling the opposing aspects of the self. For Jung, pain is an inevitable part of this journey. It is only by confronting and understanding the painful parts of our psyche, our fears, anxieties, and limitations, that we can grow into the individuals we are meant to be. Jung's belief that pain is not something to suppress but something to embrace as a tool for growth is echoed in the work of Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. Frankl argued that suffering itself is meaningless. It is only the meaning we attach to suffering that gives it significance. Frankl famously said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Frankl's experience in concentration camps led him to the profound understanding that pain and suffering can be transcended if we give it meaning. The key to this is finding purpose in the midst of suffering, rather than avoiding or running from it. But there is another layer to this issue, the societal conditioning that pushes us to avoid pain at all costs. Modern culture, particularly in the West, has turned the pursuit of comfort and pleasure into a lifestyle. We are bombarded with messages that tell us to always feel good, to never be unhappy, and to constantly seek instant gratification. This cultural pressure creates a disconnection from the deeper, more meaningful experiences of life. The rise of consumerism, with its focus on instant gratification, has played a significant role in this. Advertising encourages us to believe that material possessions, pleasure, and comfort are the keys to happiness, but this only keeps us from confronting the deeper truths about ourselves. Pain, in this context, becomes something to be avoided at all costs, a sign of failure or something wrong with us, rather than an integral part of the process of becoming who we are meant to be. The emphasis on constant pleasure and distraction has created a cultural void, where the pain of self-reflection is avoided at all costs. The problem is that this avoidance only perpetuates the cycle of dissatisfaction, as the real work of self-discovery and growth is never done. The more we try to numb our pain, the more we fall out of touch with who we truly are, making us less able to confront the discomfort of personal growth when it arises. So, why does this problem persist? Why do we avoid pain when it has so much potential for growth? The answer lies in our psychological and cultural conditioning, which has taught us to reject pain as a threat rather than embrace it as an opportunity. From a psychological standpoint, pain is often viewed as a danger to our self-esteem and sense of control, while society teaches us that happiness is the ultimate goal, achieved only by avoiding discomfort. But as thinkers like Nietzsche, Schopenhauer, Jung, and Frankl have shown, pain is not something that destroys us. Instead, it is a force that shapes us, one that, when properly understood, can lead us to the deepest levels of growth and self-actualization. Pain is the price of wisdom, the gateway through which we must pass in order to become whole. Now that we've explored the roots of our avoidance of pain, we can begin to understand the unseen consequences of this deep-seated resistance. Pain, when avoided or suppressed, does not simply disappear. It shapes our lives in subtle, often invisible ways. The more we push pain to the margins, the more it silently molds our thoughts, behaviors, and identities, often without us even realizing it. At first glance, the avoidance of pain may seem like a harmless coping strategy. After all, who wouldn't want to avoid discomfort? But what we fail to see is that this avoidance comes at a steep psychological cost, a cost that often goes unnoticed until it's too late. By refusing to face pain, we create a disconnect between who we are and who we could be, stunting our emotional and psychological growth. When we avoid pain, we don't just protect ourselves from difficult emotions, we also numb our ability to fully experience life. The human experience is defined by its emotional range, the peaks of joy, the valleys of sadness, and everything in between. But when we reject pain, we lose the ability to feel fully, to engage deeply with life. Psychologically, this manifests as a disconnection from our emotions. When we refuse to feel the hard emotions, grief, disappointment, fear, anger, we begin to shut off parts of ourselves. We become emotionally numb, unable to access the depth of experience that allows for growth. Emotional numbness can lead to a state of detachment, where life feels like it's passing by in a haze. The colors of the world seem muted, and the depth of our connections with others feels shallow. But this numbness is a coping mechanism, a defense. It's easier to avoid the discomfort of pain than to confront it. Yet, by choosing avoidance, we suppress our emotional range. And when we suppress one emotion, it doesn't just stay contained. The emotional suppression spills over into other areas of our lives. We begin to shut ourselves off from love, joy, and connection, the very emotions that make life meaningful. The price of numbing pain is the loss of emotional richness, the lack of depth that we need to truly live. The longer we suppress pain, the deeper we bury it. Over time, this avoidance becomes habitual. We no longer even realize we're doing it. Psychological repression, the unconscious act of pushing painful feelings out of our awareness, becomes a second nature. What begins as an occasional avoidance of discomfort turns into a continuous, deeply ingrained pattern of rejecting pain in all its forms. The problem with this habitual avoidance is that it doesn't just disappear, it accumulates. Repressed emotions don't vanish. They stay within us, festering like a wound that's never properly treated. Eventually, the emotional toll becomes so great that it begins to manifest in physical symptoms, from chronic tension and fatigue to headaches and digestive issues. The body, in its wisdom, carries the burden of what our minds refuse to confront. Even when the pain is buried, its effects ripple through our lives. We become reactive, anxious, or irritable. We start to avoid situations that might bring up difficult emotions, locking ourselves in a cycle of safety and avoidance. But this safety comes at a price. It restricts our growth. By choosing to stay within the comfort of numbness, we are locking ourselves out of the deeper emotional experiences that could lead to healing and growth. But perhaps the most significant unseen consequence of avoiding pain is the loss of authenticity. In our attempt to protect ourselves from discomfort, we disconnect from who we truly are. We build walls around our true selves, creating a false identity that is based on the avoidance of pain. This false identity, what CarlJung referred to as the persona, is a mask we wear to protect ourselves, but it's not the real us. It is shaped by societal expectations, the need for approval, and the fear of vulnerability. Jung's work on the shadow shows that every person has parts of themselves they try to hide or deny, parts that are uncomfortable, or that don't fit the image of the perfect person we try to present to the world. When we avoid pain, we avoid confronting our shadow. The shadow contains the truths about who we are, the dark, unpolished, raw parts of ourselves that we don't want to admit. But these parts of us are not inherently bad. They are simply parts of us that are waiting to be integrated. The more we avoid these painful parts of ourselves, the more we build a false persona that fits societal standards of success, beauty, or achievement. But this persona is a prison, a mask that prevents us from living authentically. We become disconnected from our true selves, from the unique qualities that make us who we are, because we are too afraid to confront the pain that would lead us to our true identity. There's also a deeper, societal reason why we avoid pain: the cultural pressure to be perfect, strong, and self-sufficient. In today's world, vulnerability is often seen as a weakness. We are told that pain is something to be hidden, something to be covered up, numbed, or pushed aside. Social media, advertisements, and even our workplaces send the message that we must appear happy, successful, and put together at all times. We fear that if we show our pain, we will be judged, rejected, or seen as weak. This creates a dangerous cycle. Pain is not only avoided, but it is also hidden from others. We become isolated in our suffering, afraid that if we reveal our vulnerability, we will lose the acceptance and approval we so desperately crave. This fear of vulnerability is one of the most powerful societal forces that keeps us trapped in the cycle of avoidance. It's not just the pain that we're hiding, it's the fear of being seen for who we truly are, imperfect, flawed, and human. But here's the paradox: by avoiding pain, we actually make ourselves more vulnerable. The more we hide from it, the more power it has over us. The longer we push it away, the more it controls our lives. True freedom, true personal growth, and true authenticity can only come when we stop running from our pain and start embracing it. This is the deepest consequence of avoiding pain. It keeps us from the very thing we seek: freedom. Freedom to be ourselves, to live fully, to experience the richness of life. By avoiding pain, we avoid life itself. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the very thing you've been running from, your pain, holds the key to your freedom. What if the constant struggle, the endless avoidance, and the numbness you've been living with aren't the solutions but the barriers keeping you from experiencing the life you truly desire? What if embracing pain, instead of fearing it, is the radical shift that would set you free? This is the rebellion we must undertake, a rebellion against everything we've been taught about pain, suffering, and success. For years, you've been told that happiness is the absence of pain, that success is a flawless journey without setbacks, and that the only way to win in life is to avoid discomfort at all costs. But what if all of that is a lie? What if pain is not the enemy, but the very catalyst for your personal transformation? The process of breaking free from the tyranny of avoidance requires a shift in mindset, perspective, and action, a revolutionary act of embracing the discomfort that we've been taught to fear. And paradoxically, it's through this act of rebellion that you will find true peace and authenticity. The first step in this rebellion is radically accepting the pain. It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? We are so conditioned to avoid, numb, and suppress our discomfort that the idea of embracing it can seem completely foreign. But acceptance is not the same as resignation. To accept your pain is to acknowledge its presence without judgment, to allow it to exist without allowing it to define you. When you embrace pain, you stop running from it, and that, in itself, brings a profound sense of relief. Instead of trying to escape your emotional or physical suffering, you can now sit with it, observe it, and learn from it. Pain, when fully experienced, is no longer a force that controls you. It becomes a companion on your journey, a teacher that shows you not just who you are in your moments of strength but who you are in your moments of weakness. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, understood this deeply. He believed that meaning is not found in the absence of suffering but in how we respond to suffering. Frankl's concept of logotherapy teaches that we can choose our attitude toward pain. It's not the pain itself that causes suffering, it's how we perceive it. When we allow ourselves to face it head on, instead of avoiding or numbing it, we take back the power it has over us. By shifting from avoidance to acceptance, you free yourself from the cycle of fear. You stop seeing pain as a threat and begin to see it as an opportunity to evolve. The next part of this rebellion is embracing vulnerability. For so long, we've been taught that vulnerability is weakness, that showing our pain, our fear, or our insecurities will make us unworthy of love or respect. We hide behind walls, pretending everything is fine, and yet these walls keep us isolated, disconnected from others, and cut off from our own truth. But vulnerability is not weakness, it is strength. True strength is not the ability to hide your pain, but the courage to show it. By allowing yourself to be vulnerable, you open the door to authenticity. You stop pretending to be someone you're not and allow others to see you as you truly are, flawed, human, and real. This is a radical act of rebellion in a world that praises perfection and success. To embrace vulnerability is to stop living in fear of judgment and to start living from a place of self-acceptance. When you stop fearing vulnerability, you open the door to real connections with others. You stop hiding behind a mask of perfection, and you allow people to see you for who you really are. This is where true intimacy and deep, meaningful relationships are born. To break free from the grip of avoidance, you must change your mindset about pain. Instead of seeing it as a problem to fix, start seeing it as a teacher. Pain has wisdom to offer if you are willing to listen. It's easy to think of pain as a destructive force, something that only harms you. But pain can also be a powerful catalyst for change. CarlJung spoke about the importance of embracing the shadow aspects of our psyche, the parts of us that we suppress, reject, or deny. These hidden parts of ourselves often emerge in moments of pain, frustration, or conflict. Jung believed that it is through the integration of the shadow, by acknowledging and embracing our darker sides, that we achieve wholeness. Pain, in this context, becomes the key to personal growth. Every painful experience holds a lesson, a message about who we are, what we need, and what we are capable of. When you change your mindset and stop fearing pain, you begin to see it not as an enemy but as a guide, leading you toward greater self-awareness, self-acceptance, and ultimately, self-actualization. The most powerful aspect of this rebellion is reclaiming your own power. When you avoid pain, you give it power over you. You let it dictate your choices, your emotions, and your behavior. But when you face your pain, you take back that power. You stop allowing pain to control you, and you start using it to fuel your personal growth. Reclaiming your power requires conscious action. It means facing the discomfort head-on, rather than turning away from it. It means acknowledging your fears and insecurities, rather than pretending they don't exist. It means making the courageous choice to grow through your pain, instead of shrinking from it. When you stop running from pain, you realize that pain is not something that happens to you. It is something that you can choose to learn from. You reclaim control over your emotional life. No longer do you let pain hold you hostage. Instead, you use it as a stepping stone on your path to a more authentic and fulfilling life. This brings us to the final part of the rebellion, transformation through suffering. It's the most difficult, yet most rewarding, part of the journey. The pain that you once feared becomes the fuel for your transformation. It is through suffering that you develop resilience, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. Friedrich Nietzsche famously said, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger." But Nietzsche's idea wasn't just about enduring pain, it was about growing from it. True transformation happens when we consciously choose to face our suffering rather than running from it. It's through this conscious facing of pain that we evolve, when we learn to turn hardship into wisdom, suffering into strength, and struggle into growth. By embracing the fullness of pain and learning to grow from it, we stop being victims of our circumstances. We become empowered individuals who have faced the worst, endured, and emerged stronger on the other side. The rebellion is not easy. It requires courage to face the pain you've spent so long avoiding. It requires a shift in mindset, a willingness to embrace vulnerability, and the courage to turn suffering into transformation. But this rebellion, this choice to live authentically in the face of pain, holds the key to the freedom, growth, and fulfillment you've been searching for. In the end, it's not the absence of pain that leads to a rich life, but the willingness to live fully through it. By embracing the fullness of life, pain and all, you break free from the prison of avoidance. You take control of your own journey, reclaim your personal power, and step into a life of meaningful transformation. Are you ready to embrace your pain and transform it into the most powerful force for personal growth? The choice is yours. You've now traveled through the depths of pain, resistance, and transformation. You've embraced vulnerability, changed your mindset, and taken the necessary steps to reclaim your power. But the journey doesn't stop there. The most profound revelation still awaits, the ultimate truth that will change how you see the world and yourself forever. This truth is simple yet staggering. Pain is not the enemy. It is the key to unlocking your true potential. It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? We have spent most of our lives running from pain, fearing it, trying to bury it deep within. But the deepest wisdom of human existence, shared by thinkers like Nietzsche, Jung, and Frankl, is this: only through embracing our pain can we transcend it and become whole. The pain you've been avoiding, the suffering that has defined your existence, is not the thing that destroys you. It is the very thing that makes you who you are meant to be. What if the things that scare us the most, the things we try to avoid at all costs, are the very things that hold the potential for our greatest growth? What if, by confronting our pain, we unlock the deepest truths about ourselves? Here lies the paradox of pain. It is through suffering that we evolve, and through resistance that we stay stuck. Pain becomes the vehicle for transformation, but only if we stop seeing it as something to fear and start seeing it as the powerful teacher it is. Think about it. What if the moment you accepted your pain for what it was, just another part of life, another chapter of your growth, you began to shift from a place of survival to a place of true living? What if you could use every experience of pain, no matter how intense, as a stepping stone toward a richer, more authentic existence? The greatest truth you can realize is this: you don't need to be perfect to be whole. Perfectionism, with all its demands and pressures, is one of the greatest traps you can fall into. It keeps you trapped in a never-ending cycle of self-doubt, constantly striving for an unattainable ideal. But the truth is that your flaws, your weaknesses, and your struggles are what make you truly human. In this final realization, the key to freedom lies in embracing imperfection. The idea of perfection that society feeds us is a mirage, a distracting illusion that keeps us from fully accepting and loving ourselves. When you stop chasing perfection and embrace your authentic self, with all of your pain, flaws, and imperfections, You liberate yourself from the constant pressure of measuring up to an external standard. As Jean-Paul Sartre once said, "Freedom is what you do with what's been done to you." Your freedom comes not from running from pain, but from using it as the catalyst for becoming who you truly are. The things that you thought were obstacles are actually the pathways to your fullest expression of self. What does this freedom look like? It looks like radical self-acceptance. When you fully accept who you are, without the need for external validation or perfection, you break free from the prison of self-judgment. This is not a passive acceptance. This is an active embrace of your whole being, even the parts of you that have been hidden or repressed. This is where Carl Jung's concept of individuation becomes crucial. To individuate is to become the person you were always meant to be, not the person you are expected to be, but the person you truly are. It is in integrating the shadow, in facing the pain and imperfections within, that you become whole. And in doing so, you become the fullest version of yourself, a version of you that is authentic, powerful, and free. This realization brings immense clarity. Pain is not an obstacle to happiness. It is the very thing that leads you to it. When you accept that pain is a natural part of life, when you stop resisting it, you free yourself to experience the depths of life, the joy, the growth, and the meaning that are hidden within every moment of discomfort. As you reflect on your journey, think of all the times pain has come into your life. Maybe it was the loss of a loved one, the end of a relationship, or a failure that made you feel worthless. Each of these moments, if you allow them, has the power to transform you. Pain is not the thing that breaks you. It is the thing that makes you stronger. It is through suffering that we learn resilience, empathy, and a deep understanding that everything is temporary. When you accept pain instead of resisting it, it loses its power over you. It becomes just another part of the journey, an experience to be lived through, not something to be feared. The moment you stop running from pain is the moment you stop being defined by it. You reclaim your power, your voice, and your life. And so, the ultimate truth you must embrace is that pain is a teacher, not a tormentor. It is not something to avoid or escape. It is something to learn from. It will teach you lessons that you could never learn in comfort. It will guide you to a version of yourself that is deeper, richer, and more authentic. In the final analysis, the most powerful realization is that you are not defined by your pain. You are defined by how you respond to it, how you use it to shape your growth, and how you allow it to expand your understanding of yourself. Your greatest strength lies in your ability to live fully, embracing all that is painful, beautiful, and real. As you face your pain, whether it's emotional, physical, or spiritual, know that you are not alone. The pain you experience is the gateway to your true self. The transformation you seek cannot be found in avoiding suffering, but in embracing it as part of your journey. You are meant to live fully, to experience the highs and lows of life with grace and acceptance. This is your invitation. Step into the fullness of who you are, with all your flaws, your scars, and your triumphs. Step into the freedom of self-acceptance, where pain no longer holds you hostage, but instead becomes the force that propels you toward your fullest life. In doing so, you will find that the price of transformation, of truly living, is not the absence of pain, but the willingness to face it and grow through it. You can use your pain as the fuel that drives you to your greatest potential. The power to create your reality lies within you, and it all begins with the choice to embrace, not avoid, the discomfort that life presents. This is the ultimate truth. The pain you carry is not what defines you, but how you use it will.